Hi, welcome to my August wrap-up. Let's jump straight to the oldest one, Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. I gave it 3 stars, because to be honest, it had too much boring parts for my taste. For example, we spent so much time in the woods hunting ducks or whatever, and speaking about taxes and growing potatoes. I can see how it can fit into the cottagecore aesthetic, but I think, to me, it feels a bit dated. Watch out for the spoiler, and skip ahead to this time. Anna's death is tragic, but I felt that somehow it was a bit underplayed. Like, she goes under the train and I had to go back to make sure, oh, okay, this time she's done it. Okay, next up is Ulysses by James Joyce. I give it 5 stars, so here are 5 reasons why you should read it. The sheer flex that you actually finished it. Your vocab will shoot through the roof. If you're in for a mindfuck or like weird things, then this is for you. This was an early supporter of LGBT rights in a sense, even if it's not directly written. Tell me in the comments if you know of an earlier book with a gender-fluid protagonist who isn't killed for who he is. Finally, you'll be able to visit Dublin without actually going there and enjoying the wonderful weather. Yes, see my detailed review on Goodreads for more serious approach. The Silmarillion by JRR Tolkien. I gave this one 3 stars also. You are sometimes lost in a vast sea of names, places or events that can be difficult to connect on first read, but it's the appeal of the book, exploring the story and the lore behind the tiny events that interest you. It's truly a different reading experience, an epic story in a sense because of the scale of the stories. It spans a few thousand years and has a few hundred characters. Be aware that this is miles away from Lord of the Rings in terms of scale and writing. It appears to me more whimsical, poetic, but also slower and less exaggerating than a battle, for example. It is said to be a hard read, but the difficulty is more in following all the storylines and characters because there are so many. You don't get to spend 1,000 pages with them as with Frodo and company. Not all stories are equal, but this is a marvelous introduction to the myth and world Tolkien has created. I feel it's the key to unlock your deep dive in his world. This is the entry point. Not the best book, but a needed one for sure. Next up is Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison, and it was actually my favorite of the bunch for the month, so we'll go a bit more in depth with this one. We follow an unnamed protagonist who comes from southern US, and he goes to a college where he's taught how to act properly, has to literally fight a boxing battle royale for the opportunity to make speech, where in fact no one really listens to him and so they just keep making fun of him, but he does get a gift of a briefcase. He then has to act as a chaperone for an old white guy, one of the school's board member. After a fallout, the boy is expelled from said school and is sent to New York to find a job to win his way back to school. Despite him being given a bunch of letters of recommendation, he will struggle and many questions arise, the most pressing one being how to survive in a new environment. And this is where the book really begins. Beware, spoilers are coming. He ends up finding a job in a paint factory, first as a, let's say, paint tester, then as a sort of mechanic. After an accident, he is injured and is let go from the factory. On his way home, he witnesses the eviction of an old couple, and trouble starts there for him. This marks the beginning of his encounters with what will be known as the Brotherhood. This political organization will groom him into a ferocious public speaker in the Harlem neighborhood. But him being a powerful black figure will lead to even more tension. Internal and external feuds. We'll see our hero thrown under the bus, ostracized, and eventually out of the Brotherhood. the meantime, social unrest in Harlem reaches a boiling point, culminating in riots. Branding himself as invisible, our main character uses this situation to escape the real world. How will he cope with his disillusions? Is there hope for social justice? What about the future? So what are really the key elements of the book? Well, first up, it's a powerful account of the black experience in America. I've seen the phrase, it's a needed education to earn the right to critique, because you have to know what you are talking about before giving your opinion. It's also a good introduction to the whole discussion on race, social justice, equity, that is sadly not too different now than it was more than 50 years ago. Invisible Man discusses race, but much more than that. It goes deeper in showing how one can be manipulated or manipulate the whole community to fit one's agenda. The great thing is that it avoids simplicity. The picture painted is never a simple one. There is never a single problem, a single solution, a single source, may not even a single opinion, even inside the rightful groups. It's beautifully written, and some of the speeches can and gave me chills. Another great point is that it never feels too preachy, which can be quite hard when dealing with such heavy subjects. All in all, it's still relevant today, and if you're interested in more books like this, I recommend these 3 books. The Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston, Black Boy by Richard Wright, The Right Boat Shuffle by Paul Beatty. Next is The Baron in the Trees by Italo Calvino. I gave this one 3 stars. It's a philosophical fiction. A good example of such a book is The Little Prince by Saint-Exupéry, and an okay one is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. We follow Cosimo di Rondo during the 18th century. After a fight with his parents about refusing to eat snails, Cosimo climbs up a tree. He decides to never touch the ground again and to make a new life up in the trees. He will still enjoy a full life with love, friendships, and dealing with day-to-day problems like finding food. It's a fun and light book. Cosimo has a bunch of different hats and you can easily picture him. It's like your dream of living in a tree house put into delightful worlds. It has some fantasy elements and some private elements, but in the end it's some kind of coming-of-age story mixed with finding yourself. It's fast and fun, so nice summer read, and it also fits the cottagecore aesthetic. The last book for the month is The Color Purple by Alice Walker, and I gave this one 4 stars. It actually won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction in 1983, and it was later adapted as a movie by Steven Spielberg. The story is told as a series of letters written alternatively by Sadie and her sister Nettie. Sadie mainly writes to God, and Nettie mainly writes to Sadie. We follow the sisters through their life. Sadie tries to free herself from the household where she was raped. The 2 children she had as a consequence were taken away from her. She befriends Shug Avery, a figure of an independent woman who will show Sadie a new side of life, friendship, but also jealousy and pain. After running away from home, Nettie meets a minister. She followed him and his family to Africa to become a missionary and help the Olinka tribe. I'll let you discover the role of the color purple and what really happens to Sadie. It can be a tough read at times because the themes are really heavy: rape, poverty, racism, gender equality. Alice Walker said herself in a preface that it remains a theological work examining a journey from the religious back to the spiritual. What can be surprising here is the way Sadie writes. It actually mimics a lack of education because of everything she had to go through when she was only 14 or 15 years old. No contrast with Nelly, who received education, is stark. Real joy is to see Sally grow as the story progresses and seeing her dealing with all that life thrown at her. Thanks for watching, take care, bye. If you want to read like Lupita Nyong'o or Viggo Mortensen, click here to see what they recommend. If you want to catch my latest review, it was When We Were Orphans by Kazuo Ishiguro. Go here.